Alright, stream should be back now. So, first off, this Friday class is open mic in the Discord, so if you join the Discord channel, you're free to use push to talk, and if you request it from me, if you're a good little boy or girl, then as long as you're not gonna like hot mic and like have background noise or whatever, then I can grant you like not just push to talk, but like voice activation stuff, so you can draw and speak at the same time without having to hit push to talk. Anyway, before we get into tonight's session, I wanted to show off some of these books that I recommend. I'm going to be trying to compile like a growing list of books and tutorials I recommend people to check out. And I'm going to be studying them more vigorously throughout the week myself and applying some of the things from them for my classes. This one in particular, Mike Mattisi's Force. I know several people who've actually taken classes. Actually, I know people who've taken classes with Michael Hampton in our Discord, and people who've taken classes with Mike Mattisi in our Discord. So I'm going to be utilizing both of them a great deal. I think there's a few people that have taken classes with One Bill Crew too. But this is by no means complete. This is like a starter list. This is like your starter list of good art books, basically. There's more essential art books than these, but these are like some of the good ones. So like Mike Mattisi's Force, there's more books in the Force series, but this is the main one right here. There's also one that's focused on anatomy and animal character design books. Force is a very, very kind of gesture drawing approach to drawing, like push to gesture based on like really exaggerated forms and a really rhythmical approach to drawing that's very animator oriented. I wanted to actually tap in more into this. There's a few people on my game dev team that are pretty adept at this method, so I'm really trying to learn from them. There's also quite a few people I know who've been studying Michael Hampton extensively who I want to be learning from, and I'll be applying stuff from here. Michael Hampton's book is very formulaic and very structural, but like really, really well-defined structure. So I'm thinking that I think even that like these two books in particular would be very key because they kind of play off each other. Like if you get too far into Force, you can get mushy-gushy with your approach to structure, but if you combine it with Michael Hampton, you can solidify it more. So I kind of feel like that bouncing between these two books in particular would be really good. Vern Hogarth is really good. Some people kind of complain about like his spaghetti people approach to figures, but he draws that way partly because his background is like he was a comic book artist, illustrator originally, but also like the way he draws in those art books. Those are like giant ass demos that are meant to kind of like make the anatomy really, really clear and clean for the students. Yeah, here, give me a second. I'll see if I can address the voice volume issue. Let's maybe move my microphone over here. How is this? Let's lower the music a bit. Alright, so how's this volume? Is my voice just fine now? Because I moved it a little bit closer to me. Hello? Yeah, better. I may reposition the mic to an even better spot if I can this evening too. I think I got another spot that I can put it that would not be so close to my mouse, so that you won't hear me clicking so much. And a little bit further away from the fan that I have on right now. Okay, let's see here. So, Vern Hogarth does get some criticism for kind of like spaghetti people, sort of how he draws. But even from those people, they say that his dynamic hand drawing book is fantastic, and I've dipped into that and gotten some good stuff out of it. His drawing the human head, that's something you could probably combine with Loomis. His heads are very kind of mannequin-y, but he offers a pretty clear starting point for how to approach the head. There's other better head drawing books to dig into that I didn't include here. I was trying to like pick some ones that would be good for animators to start with. George Bridgman right here. This one has a big learning curve to it. There's particular ways that you should study Bridgman for how you break down the forms and stuff. But Bridgman is it's a tough but rewarding cookie to crack. And I'm going to be utilizing him some more in the coming weeks for sure. Drawn to Life here. This is a two-book series, which is like compiled notes from Walt Stanchfield, who was a figure drawing instructor in the Disney Studios, mainly in the Silver Age of the 1990s. And he taught like these he also taught like Pixar people too, mainly Disney. And he also taught at CalArts for a while as well. And he has like a very kind of like simplified animator-oriented approach to figure drawing that emphasizes capturing like working simplicity that's like more stylized for animation and stuff, and caricaturing reality and pulling out character and better analytical forms from reality. Here's Andrew Loomis. I had to cover up the titties here. The Andrew Loomis books, you can get these. You can actually find George Bridgman's books. George Bridgman's books are actually public domain, so that there's more books than just this published one that I'm looking at. You can, if you Google around a bit, you can actually find a lot of different PDF copies of George Bridgman books that are actually public domain material. And same thing with Loomis. There's a lot of public domain Loomis stuff. You can get physical copies of his books, but you can also find these public domain because they are very old. Andrew Loomis has his figure drawing for all it's worth in particular, and his drawing the head and hands books are ones to pick up. And his approach to drawing is very kind of like construction oriented. When he's big on proportions and like using the figure, like using perspective on the figure and stuff is really handy. And here's Glenn Vilppu. Glenn Vilppu is another person who also taught at CalArts for years, and taught like the people in the CalArts character animation program for years. His approach to drawing is rounded in. His approach to drawing is very accessible. So like Vilppu is very newcomer friendly, especially in this drawing manual and stuff. And I may actually use some of the stuff from him tonight, because he's a good place to kind of reorient yourself a bit. And if you're kind of feeling lost, you feel a little awful and stuff, some of his early chapter lessons for his gesture drawing, and even some of his later chapter ones, like the shape and the cube stuff, are good things to fall back on if you're getting too bogged down with lacking in confidence and overly detailed stiffness in your drawing. He's a good guy to pull from for pulling back and stuff. And his stuff is very gesture oriented. But yeah, these are some good books to start with. I'm gonna be, like I said, these two books in particular, I'm gonna be pulling a lot from. But all of these books right here, I'm gonna be bouncing between for the next several weeks in these classes, pulling stuff from. I might bring up some of the pages from them for these. In fact, I think I'm going to bring up one particular page. Like, let's see, Glenn Vilppu, my manual. I'll bring up some of the stuff from the Vilppu manual, which you can see on, which you can find on Google image searches and stuff. But just to give you a little bit of a taste. But like this page right here, Hopefully this shows on screen. Yeah, shown on screen. Yeah, this is a little bit kind of ghosty right now because of the JPEG artifacting going on, but you can kind of make out like the gestural approach he takes to the figure. We'll be doing, I think we'll be doing some of this tonight as part of the warm-ups. But I'll be combining it with some other things tonight, and what we're going to be getting into will be some of that, like dipping our toes in a little bit of Vilpoo and a little bit of maybe a couple other things. But also action analysis, which will be like a repetitive thing that we'll be doing over the course of these several weeks. Like, I want people to be thinking like animators for my classes here. Because we're going to be looking at stuff, looking at poses, pushing the poses, and exaggerating the poses into actions and attitudes and so on. And I'm kind of so for now, guys, start breaking out your pencils and start getting. Let's like loosen up a bit. Like get some line drills in. Get your hand and arm warmed up and moving. I'm kind of getting my hand and arm warmed up real quick. I'm going to switch it over to the gesture drawing out very shortly, but I kind of want people to take this opportunity to just sort of like get your hand and arm and your eye working a little bit, you know, like draw some cascading lines like this, because we're going to be using these tonight. Draw some like S-curves like this. Draw like curved lines, draw straight lines. Do stuff like this, like draw a couple parallel lines. Add a little ellipse at the end of it like that, and create like a structure like that. Put some lines over it. Draw some more ellipses through it. We're just gonna get a little bit warmed up here. Just like get some like basic shapes in before we get to the figure drawing. So there will be plenty of figure drawing tonight, but we want to have a good strong start tonight. So I'm gonna have everyone here just to start warming up, loosening up. Get some lines down on your page, draw some cubes, some real quick exaggerated cubes in my case. Some circles in. We might even do some of these during some of the breaks today, just kind of keep our hand warm and stuff. You can even scribble a little bit. Just kind of get the blood flow into your hand. Get like your nervous system working. Let's do like one more little quick page. Some line drills. You want your hand and arm to kind of do what you want this evening, and you want to be more confident in your strokes, if you can help it, for this evening. This is something that I've been meaning to do at the start of these classes, but hadn't been, and so I think that I'll be getting a lot stronger results if I do this, and as will you. Got some straights. Let's do some tubes real quick. So you do tubes like this. Just got to do a couple parallel lines like that, kind of curving around. Add some ellipses throughout it. And then next to that, I'm going to do a tornado tube, which I start with a gesture line like that. And then I'm going to widen the tube and turn it away from us. Widen it. Turn it towards us and turn it away from us. We may use the tornado a little bit this evening, but I think this evening we're going to be concentrating on Vilpoo, but I'll call out certain things that I'm going to be using this evening. But let's go over real quick some of the tools we've been using the last couple weeks before we get started. How do you feel about Blender for animation? It's pretty good. I don't think the grease pencil is the best as far as the drawing tool goes, but it works really good. I'm going to be using more of it myself. It's free. And thank you, Choreo, for the tier 1 sub. Much appreciated. So, first off, here's some of the tools we're going to be using this evening. CSI. That means C curve, S curve, and the I is actually just a straight line. But yeah. But keep that in mind. C curve. Might want to write this down, folks. C curve, S curve, I straight. What that means is these are the 3 main lines you're going to be using. Like, for example, here, I've got a head. Say I've got a head that I've drawn in here. But I can, instead of just like doing a really anatomical neck for like the purposes of this quick sketch, I can just put in a little couple C curves in right here, like that. Another example, like let's say I'm drawing a torso. Like here's a C curve right here for the side of for like one of the for like the stretched out side of the torso. Here's a couple straights. Right here. And put like a little center line down the torso there. Cap that off on either side. This is just like a simple shape for a torso. Maybe a quick sketch torso, basically. Let's see if I'm doing a limb. Here's a straight right here. Another straight right there. Then I do like kind of a S curve right there. S curve right there. Then I maybe add a little structure in there with some ellipses inside there. So stuff like that. These aren't the best drawings, but this is like the principle at play that I'm talking about. Of like you want to be thinking about like which kind of lines you're going to be using when you're building the figures. Like if you're like scribbling and chicken scratching all over the place, which is a bad habit that I get into a lot. I mean, it's one thing to like, you know, make like flowing lines, or when you're like an animator and you're exploring, like, it's common like for animators and stuff for when you're kind of like trying to feel out a pose, you'll see like animators who are really good draftsmen, you'll see them kind of searching. And it's okay to have like productive scribbling for those kinds of drawings. Like, you're really trying to feel things out, you're really trying to push things. So you might see like animators like trying the arm in different positions. You might see them feeling around and stuff. It's like trying to feel out a little bit of the force of the drawing and stuff. Like, this is kind of productive scribbling. It kind of follows a flow and a logic to it. And also like the idea being that eventually you're going to tie it down. Like, eventually you're going to come back in and you're going to like pick out or push some kind of exaggerated, clean version of the pose. That is better described. Usually, often when they do cleanup and tie downs, they're kind of pushed even beyond what the gesture drawing was, because the gesture drawing is always inherently going to look more dynamic than like the tied down drawing. But yeah, like CSI would be your main tool for picking out what lines you use. Then moving on from that, a couple other tools I'm going to go over real quick. Straights against curves. Against curves. You'll be seeing an awful lot of this if you know where to look for it. like that. Just like here's a straight line against a. Well, first off, let me show you why it's important to use this. Let's just draw like a simple little character here. This character is composed entirely out of straights. He seems a bit stiff. But watch what happens if, like... Well, first, it's going to be a little bit tricky, actually. I picked kind of a crappy pose to do this in. But let's see if what I can do with it. Go straight up there, curve for the sides of the torso here. Straight here, curve there. Maybe curve here, straight here. Straight, curve. Straight, straight, like. I did kind of buff him up a bit, so it's a little bit unfair. Maybe I should just use kind of the same body for this demonstration. But like this principle of setting straight lines against curves, like lets like them play dynamically against each other. So like whereas like these two lines right here are a little bit boring and parallel and kind of flat. Like this and this kind of tapering effect is a little bit more interesting. Or this and this kind of S-curve line over here is a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to have you guys kind of look for strategies to perform straights against curves, and one of those is the bow and arrow. And that is a very this one is mainly for the torso, but you can also find this in other forms of the body. The bow and arrow functionally is, here's the bow, here's the arrow. But what this is a super simplified way to think of the torso, and other forms that kind of mimic this sort of the same sort of thing. But instead of instead of drawing like a hugely complex anatomical torso, when you're doing a quick pose, just trying to capture the essence or the idea of the pose, all you really need is just like that. For the bend of the torso, because you've got a compressed side and a stretched side, a stretched or active side. And this is an example of straights against curves, how straights play against curves to enhance the dynamic feel of a drawing. And you can find these in like really unusual ways in a lot of drawings. I'll point out where I see it tonight, here and there. We've been on the hunt for those lately, for bow and arrows sightings in a lot of the stuff we've been doing for the past couple of weeks. Let me see, there's one more. Well, okay, I'm going to show you real quick the... I'm going to do a quick demo of the Glenville-Poo approach to figure drawing. So here we go, folks. This is better described if you have access to the Glenville-Poo figure drawing manual, which is this book. You could probably Google around and find some of the pages that I'm using for this. If you have access to this, I would pull it out now. But here's step 1 of the Glenville-Poo approach to figures. Start with an ellipse for the head, like that. Then you add want kind of like an egg shape, basically. Then you add like an ellipse inside of it to show the direction of the eyes. Like you decide, in this case I've decided that the outer line is the outside of it. You might even like decide like what the direction is for what the direction that it's facing is, and you add like a little cross here. Yeah, then you also decide where the top or the bottom of the head is, like adding a little dot there will help with that. So we know that this is then we know that this is the top of the head. Oh shit! I forgot to switch over I forgot to switch things over real quick. I'm going to switch over to the art stream overlay real fast. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. The audio is out. Thank you, thank you. All right, I'll repeat what I said. All right, so step one, you draw an ellipse and then draw like a little you draw a egg shape for the head, and then you draw a little ellipse inside for the eye line. You can even add a little center line there for showing where the head is tilted, and a little top point maybe for showing like the top of the head, or you can sometimes indicate like the bottom where the neck is going to come out, if you can see the underside of it. Next step is to add this little indication of the neck. Next step is this. You start adding in like the indication of like the torso, the general gestural flow of the torso, like so. For this particular pose, you can add like a little bit of this indication of like the center line. This can be really loose. You want to kind of go with a kind of a free flow to it, basically. All right, let's see here. I'm going to combine all these layers. Yeah, sorry about that. I messed up with the audio briefly. We're good now, though. Let me shrink this, actually. You guys can all hear me now, right? You should be able to hear me now. What happened was I switched it over to the other desktop, and the desktop microphone was muted. Here, for those of you who want to get started on drawing figure drawings, I'm going to put up some 3-minute poses up in the corner here, while I keep going over this this demonstration. Let's see here. There we go. There you go. There's some 3-minute poses for you to play with while I go through this. So, step 4. You add indications of the legs. And you keep these really, really simple. Indication of the legs and the feet. Generally speaking, the legs are going to be in proportion to the rest of the torso. So, like, you can kind of visually measure out roughly. Like, the legs are going to be roughly about the same length as this. Another thing I forgot to mention is you want to kind of be mindful of the tilt of the shoulders versus the tilt of the pelvis. So, like, shoulders are kind of tilting like this here, and they're kind of opposing the pelvis here a little bit. Actually, that's a little bit ambiguous. Let me knock that back here. That pelvis is a little level, I would say. And how I kind of picture the pose. Decided that he's kind of got his weight on that foot. He's got this foot up like that. And step number 5. And you add in the indication of the arms. And you can keep it like simple, flowy, gestural lines with like just indications for like the hands, the feet. It doesn't have to be anything hugely complicated. You're supposed to do these like really quickly. These would be like 1 or 2 minute poses and stuff. Actually, less than that if you like really want to slow down and pay attention to what and think about what the figure's doing. But more than that, I mean. But that's the basic approach for Glenn Villepeux's method. I would recommend picking up his drawing manual if you have access to it. Break it out or bring up some Google image searches, search images of his stuff. I can't really show too much of it on stream, but I do recommend picking up some of his stuff. So let's see here, Glenn demo. Okay, I'm gonna put an image of this in our Discord chat. Let's see, what time is it? So we had a nice little demo, kind of a nice little warm up and stuff. We're gonna get started on a figure pose session in a little bit, and I'm gonna get hydrated real quick. So I would suggest you folks loosen up, take a good look at this method. I posted it in the Discord chat, of course, and also there's a alarmingly very small amount of people in voice chat right now, but there are quite a lot. There's 28 lovelies in our Twitch chat, but if you want to join the Discord, you feel free to do that. Voice chat is enabled in the Discord classroom. So you can feel free to ask questions and stuff during the session tonight, and ask questions or give input or whatever. And what's the name of the book? It's the Glenn Villepeux Drawing Manual. Here, I'll copy paste it in Twitch chat for you. The name of it, the Glenn Villepeux Drawing Manual. Let me see here. Let's make sure we get some good synthwave royalty-free synthwave. Let's find a good radio. There's that radio. I don't know if that one's royalty-free though. Let me know if the music volume overpowers my voice or whatever. I wonder. Maybe I can put this on screen. Yeah, I can put it on screen. Goody, that's down in the corner now. So, I think we're off to a pretty good start this evening. I'm going to hydrate, and then we're going to be doing some time figure poses. We'll be doing a set of 3-minute poses for 25 minutes, or actually 20 minutes. Then we'll take a 5-minute break. Then we'll be doing sets of 25-minute posing this evening. Let me make sure I get a good water. I'm going to get a good giant-ass water bottle to keep near me. I do recommend during our 5-minute breaks that you get up and stretch and walk around a little bit, because that'll keep the blood flowing into your brain, and so you won't get fatigued while doing this session tonight for the 2.5 hours we're going to be at this, beyond the little warm-up that we just did. Okay, Google, set timer for 5 minutes.
Sure, 5 minutes, and we're starting now.
So when my lovely digital assistant buzzer goes off, we'll be starting the session together. You can kind of get loosened up a little bit with some of the on-screen posing that's going on right now, but I'm going to use this timer to go hydrate and do whatever else I need to do to get engaged for what we're going to do. In the meantime, you can feel free to join the class Discord voice. I know Brendan, one of our game dev team folks, is here, and I'd love to hear from him during this session too. And let's see here. Yeah. Alright, I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay. So, how's everybody doing? Very nice. Good to hear.
Alright. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
34 seconds remaining.
Cool. I couldn't find any water bottles, but I've got a giant, like, movie big cup. Like a movie giant-sized plastic cup filled with ice water. So I'll be able to stay plenty hydrated in lower body temperature this evening so I can keep my energy up. Okay, Google stop. Alright, we'll starting shortly. I just gotta grab something real quick. Alright. Okay. Whew. We're going to start a set of 3-minute poses. And we'll be using some of the Glenn-Villepeu method that I've been showing off this evening, in conjunction with, remember folks, the Glenn-Villepeu method, which is still on screen, but also CSI, C-curve, S-curve, straight, straights against curves, and bow and arrow. We're not going to be too concerned with structure this evening, but I may find ways to insert it here and there where I feel like it. But today it's going to be very gesture oriented, gesture and action oriented. So on that note, I'm going to reset the timer on screen, and we're going to set the timer for 20 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer 20 minutes.
Sure, 20 minutes. Starting now.
We're actually going to pick a starter pose for us. That's a good one. All right. So get that ellipse going. Get that kind of sweep of the body. The body is being foreshortened, so it's going to be a little bit smaller than it would normally be. But don't worry about like getting caught up in detail for this. Do pay attention to how the top of the shoulders, the top of the rib cage is sort of angled. I'm going to maybe put a little bit of the... So instead of that neck there, the neck isn't actually visible here, so I'm going to get rid of that a bit, actually. Come to think of it, maybe this head is out of position here. It should be more down like here. Something like that. Just add a little center line there for the head. So get this kind of elastic feeling to the body here. There's a little bit of an opportunity for adding a slight bow and arrow here. Even though it's not really visible on him, I'm adding it just to kind of indicate which side is active and which side is inactive. And he's got a leg that's kind of going back into space like this, but we're just gonna use like the general gesture of the leg right here. The foot is kind of planted right there. This pelvis that's kind of angled this way, right there. I'll get kind of like a little bit of a feeling in the gesture of his arms in there. Yeah, I think 3 minutes is a good amount of time for rusty Glenn-Villepeu practice. So this isn't as dynamic as it could be, and that's okay for a warm-up drawing. Let's see if I can push it a little bit in the time I have left. So you're looking kind of for simplicity in these drawings. I'm drawing really sketchy right now because I'm kind of exploring this. This is a tricky pose. But you're going to see me drawing more simple on poses that I feel a little bit more confident in. The reason why this one's tricky is because there's a lot of foreshortening and stuff. But I kind of felt like taking on a tough pose to start. We might actually redo that pose later in the evening too. Just to compare what the difference is when we warm up. So, here's a much more easy to understand pose, even though there's like a lot of stuff covering up the face. But like the pose is kind of in profile to us, so it's a little bit easier to kind of tell where the limbs and torso is angled and stuff. And there's an excellent example of the bow and arrow right here. Remember, we're not going to overcomplicate this. Like, you can use the line of action through the whole body instead of breaking it up into piecemeal like the Vilpu demo sort of does. So I'm going to be using that a little bit on that leg back there. Let's get some of that arm up here. Do you like I like the way that the whole body seems to be kind of shifting to the left here, and like this leg is kind of bowing a bit and like taking the weight of the whole figure. So I think this head is actually angled down even further than how I did it initially. Brendan, actually I'm curious, like you've been studying Mike Battisti Force stuff. I haven't touched that stuff in a while, but I want to get back into it. I wanted to get into it again with you yesterday or something. Maybe we could touch on that stuff over the weekend, or a little bit during this class session, if you have any interesting input on that.
I actually haven't been studying him. I want to. Yesterday, I literally just watched an interview with him, and he showed how he did it.
And that was enough for you to get you going, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I've just been fiddling with it on my own.
Mostly by observation without really articulating it then? I mean, do you have anything you can say about his approach that you've kind of been picking up on, that you been keeping in mind?
I mean, it's a different way of looking at it, I guess, because looking at the figure, you're thinking of how to put together a bunch of different muscles, but with his method, you're thinking of, well, you know, the force of
the overall
direction,
the overall flow of everything.
You look for the biggest curve, and then try and support that with every line of the drawing to make it more, to make it feel more alive.
Which is sort of what I'm doing right now. This
Yeah.
What you're seeing on screen right now with this kind of cuneiform shape for the body, this is what I'm kind of observing to possibly be the longest curve. And this is an approach I got from Alex Wu's, Alex Wu being a Pixar artist who's taught figure drawing at Pixar for years. His sort of kind of like Japanese cuneiform approach to the line of action. Yeah. I'm gonna put like a digital lessons, recommended digital lessons and YouTube links, and for like other stuff, and I would include like Alex Wu's schoolism lessons, which I want to resubscribe to and get back more into. Like I've only done like a couple of his things, because he goes pretty in depth. And also, like, his sessions, he actually has timed post sessions for those. So, like, if we subscribe to him, or if we got a hold of his lessons for, like, our game dev group, those study sessions I'm talking about, like, he actually has, like, timed post sessions built into them, so that you can draw along with what he's doing, with what he's demonstrating, which is really nice. So I kind of went about like the Glenn-Vilppu method a little bit backwards here, but it's still the same kind of idea. Like, you're kind of trying to find the general feeling of the pose. So this 25-minute sesh is mostly supposed to be like the kind of the warm-up sesh, but I am planning on doing draw-over demos of work that people post in the classroom chat and Discord, and also we will be trying to invent a few poses to kind of create a animated sequence of some of this.
Where do we post the homework you assigned?
Oh, classroom chat, so I can give critique.
We just do that later? Or?
No. If you have it now, and also like whatever you're drawing this session today.
Okay.
Like that, if you want feedback on anything. Honestly, Brendan, you should be giving feedback to me on some of this stuff too. You skipped this guy. I don't feel good about that pose.
Flattering.
Well, I mean, there's stuff you're good at that I'm not good at. And do you have any experience as an animator, though?
Well, I say that. I animated on Flipnote as a kid.
I mean, it's a start. So not like any.
Start,
So like, all right. So definitely, we're gonna be making my figure drawing class on Mondays into something that the rest of the team should try to attend, or if they can't attend, they can watch the videos of for the game dev group that we're in. Yeah, Brendan's a really good artist. He was on a student game dev project that we're doing through our Discord. I'll show some of the art from that because I had some stuff today. Miles, one of the really amazingly skilled artists on our team, who has like really good sense of anatomy and stuff, did some draw over corrections on what she did is like the reason why I wanted to have her on the team, because she can kind of help. She has a good eye that she can lend to the rest of us, that will help improve all of our skills and stuff and bring us up to the standard that I'm hoping we can get to for the bits of animation and stuff we're going to be doing for the project. Like I want to get stuff together that's like industry ready portfolio content, or close to it. Like at the very least, we want to like come away from the project as much better artists than when we started. And there's a few things about this pose. One of them is the hips are actually tilting down there, so that means the spine would actually be doing more like this. So the torso should actually be bending like that. Yeah, I better erase this. Yeah, see, now it makes more sense. Yeah, I'll show some of the corrections during the break that Miles made on my my drawings today, which was really neat. Like the way she draws, like I want us to all kind of internalize it for when we animate. So I'm gonna have her help us kind of make the model sheets and like work out the system of anatomy and stuff. We'll be combining it with the figure drawing practice and study that we're gonna try to get it under our belts for as part of the group. Like, I do kind of want to like turn the game dev project partly into a way to like study group together over like, you know, like different books and video tutorials that we have access to. So we may invite a couple other people on the project who aren't necessarily going to like contribute to it, but who are there to study with us, to kind of get a good active study group going, you know. Like, I think Stevie's, I don't think Stevie's going to be contributing to the project, but he's keen on doing that. Let's get a little bit too volumetric here, when it should be going back to gesture a little bit more. It's fine to deviate a little bit like I just did, where I did like kind of volumetric tubes there. Interestingly, I think like her torso, if you were to look at her torso from the side view, I think her torso is, or the front view, I think her torso is kind of doing this. So like her shoulders up there. She's kind of got like that. So like this shoulder is up here. You can see more of the front of her torso though. Yeah, let's go over Mike Mattisi's stuff later. Would you be interested in hooking up over the weekend, Brendan, for study stuff? Doesn't have to be anything huge, but like just to dip our toes in it.
Yeah, sure. I'm open.
All right, Saturday or Sunday, sometime midday or afternoon. So I'm kind of starting to get the momentum that I wanted to out of this project, where like we have a purpose for what the figure drawing and other things that we're doing is going towards. It's like it's for the project, and that means that improving at figure drawing through constructive study and stuff has like a direct feedback effect on like improving the quality of the stuff that we're doing for the project, instead of just like aimlessly studying with no outlet for it, which was the problem I'd been running into. So that was like the whole reason why I started doing the project to begin with. This is a you're gonna have to guess on this pose, folks. Let me give you maybe a little hint of what I'm kind of seeing in it. So just, the good thing about the Glenn-Villepin method is there's a lot of room for invention with it. So there we go. We got. If you're feeling lost on this, don't worry. Spacedad has you covered. Let's get that little egg shape for the head and the noggin in there. Get a C curve for like the general body here, from the neck down to the body. Get like a little tilt for the upper part of the shoulders. Pelvis is kind of doing this, I think. I want to guesstimate that we could probably see some of the buttocks of the pelvis there. But yeah, get that in there, and then get this nice long curve down to the floor with the foot. Get like kind of a flowy line in there. Hello. Hi, Ramuko Arts. Naruko Arts sounds like someone who's an artist. streamer. Do you do any streaming, Maruko Arts? Kind of looks like that little sketchy bit there looks like she got armpit hair. You can put little indications of like the feet and the hands there. Like you can kind of see like that's the part of the hand that's like the fingers in the hand there, and then there's like a little bit of the thumb there. You can indicate stuff like that very lightly in this method. I plan to once I get better. Oh, that'll be fun. I personally think that like really clear poses are better for beginners, but I think that they're okay for this session and this approach that we're using. These poses like these that are a little bit more unclear because they're kind of shrouded in shadow. You can still kind of make out what the poses are doing, and you should be able, even as a beginner or a relatively new artist, to decipher based on the method that I showed at the start of class what the poses are doing. Just don't be intimidated by it. Just go for it. Give it a shot. And it's okay if you mess up. And if you are messing up, you can post your... I don't want people posting drawings just to show off. You know, don't show me your good drawings necessarily in chat. I mean, feel free to, if you are getting good drawings. But I want people to just post any of their work that they're doing in chat. Because I can give you pointers on withdrawovers, on what to try to push, and maybe clue you on some stuff that you're not seeing, or some things that aren't quite clicking for you yet. I'm going to include maybe the back thigh here a bit. Okay, Google, stop. I'm pretty satisfied with that pose, so I'm going to end it there. Okay, Google, set timer for 6 minutes.
Sure, 6 minutes. Starting now.
That's a pretty good 20-minute page right there. Of 3-minute gesture poses for a warm-up page. A little sketchy, a little scribbly, but I mean they don't feel bad to me. Other than like this one right here, which is I kind of did some corrections on. Like, the poses feel pretty good, and this one's a little bit awkward because it was like the first one we did. So let's see, we got another 2 hours of doing this evening, and I would recommend sticking around to the end if you're able to. We'll be trying to get a nice steady artwork out in tonight. I may actually favor this evening not doing like super extended demos like I did last time, and concentrating on doing these. But I'm going to grab some of the people's demos from class, from the classroom chat. See if anybody's got some stuff worth doing demos of. Taco Nut's got some drawing there. I'll pause it on this guy. Marie Buns has got some stuff. Let me go over this stuff. I'm gonna have to let me get up and stretch real fast. My butt is gonna get sore if I don't stretch up and walk around for a bit. Alright, let's bring these on screen. And Brendan's posting a bunch of stuff right now. Yeah, let's take a look. So initial impressions. This one, there's not enough information for me to work with, but I think like the upper part feels okay to me, but I think this leg down here feels a little off balance to me. And also the lines are kind of very hatchy and stuff. This long line feels pretty good here, and so does that front of the torso, and that there, that feels pretty good. But yeah, like these arms start to get a little bit lacking in confidence. This leg doesn't feel like it's either planting to the ground or falling through in the action or whatever. This one, it's really kind of sketchy in the lines. Like it gets kind of scribbly and stuff. This one definitely needs more confidence. So just try to get more confidence and used to playing long strokes and getting more confident with your strokes. I do like that you did the that you were trying to you're doing like the lacking in confidence, nervous hand approach to pretty good, like a good method that's going to help you. The more you do it, the more confident you get with it. So try to push more confidence into the pose. You have like the right idea. You've just got to get more confident with your hand and your arm or whatever when you're pulling your strokes. I do like that you included the bow and arrow in there. But it's not terribly bad as far as these go. The leg doesn't feel like it's planted down here. That was the main thing that stuck out to me, though. But overall, like, this feels okay. There is a sense of a lean back of the torso. Even if I cover up that leg, this feels like okay to me. But yeah. So this right here, I see a recurring problem that even I struggle with too. But yeah, like you're getting two-dimensional with these right now when we should be doing this kind of stuff. It's pretty good right there for that little first pose we did that was tricky. This one, this one's not perfect. Like there's some good stuff in here, but there's the big issue I see with this and a few of the other poses on here is there's not a good sense of balance to it. All that would take for this one is, maybe I should do a demo of this one actually. Here, I'm gonna do that real quick. Like you're just like a little bit away from it feeling a little bit right. Let's try here real quick. I'll show you what I'm talking about. One of the things we want to look for in when we do our poses is a sense of balance to them, or if it's like an action where the thing is moving and so the center of gravity is kind of shifting because they're moving forward in space, then that's a little different. But like an example of this is like we want to kind of feel like the pose is not going to fall over. That's kind of tricky. Like you kind of have to have like exercise your observation skills. Okay, Google, stop. Okay, Google, set timer for 25 minutes.
25 minutes, starting now.
So we are off on break now, and we're going to be back on some more of these poses. I'm going to be doing this demo here, and then I'm going to get back to doing poses. But this is what I'm talking about. Like you want to kind of find a whole like kind of flow through the pose. And if you're doing like the Glenn Vilppu method where you go from area to area of the body, you want to kind of make smart decisions about how you plant your feet and plant them in a way that feels balanced to the pose. Even if that isn't quite exactly what you're seeing when you look up there. Like for this particular little gesture puppet that you're drawing, you want it to feel like the gesture puppet is balanced. Like I'm guessing that this guy was like up on his tippy toes or something, so doing that. Yeah, yeah, I remember this pose. Of course, yeah. So all I did was I shifted the feet over a little bit, just to somewhere where I kind of feel like it, feels a little bit more balanced. It's still not perfect and stuff. I mean, it's not going to be because it's quick sketch, but So this is feeling a little bit better for me, like, in terms of how much weight I feel like this arm would be having on this side versus, like, this side of the torso weighing down here, and this arm over here and stuff, and the head being off-center a little bit. You can even drop like a center line from the head down here to figure out some of your balance stuff. When you're looking for balance, you're looking for counterweights to the counterweight to the balance usually. And there's other things to keep in mind too. Like a lot of the figures we're drawing tonight are going to be in motion, so that means inherently they're going to be falling forward in some direction. So kind of keep that in mind in the back of your head too. Like this pose right here, presumably after they go through this pose right here, they're going to be falling forward in that direction somewhere, and thrusting their leg out to catch themselves. Like the leg's probably going to come down somewhere over here, and the body's going to fall forward some more. Yeah, anyway, that's enough of a demo for that. I'm going to hold off on doing another demo until after the next break, because I want to join back in with doing figure poses with y'all. Let's find a good one here. That's a pretty nice one. These are all very dancey poses for the ones that I yoinked. Well, not all of them. A good portion of them are, though, in this folder that I have for all these poses. But yeah. You can kind of also abbreviate things a little bit if you're getting a little bit, if you want to keep the flow going of the Glenn-Villepin approach. Like I basically am doing like an abbreviated shorthand version of the Glenn-Villepin approach I showed you. So whatever gets you the flow of the feel of the gesture, that's what you're going for these. And it's okay to go a little sketchy as long as it's productive sketchy. Like I'm not really, there is a little bit of lacking confidence that I have in what I'm doing, but it's not for nothing. Like some of how I'm sketching here is a little bit how I approach animating. Like these, even though these are sketchy, they kind of follow the same flow, you see. Like what you don't want is like kind of chicken scratchy lines that don't really follow like the same flow very much. You want something that kind of follows the same sort of energy of the flow if you are going to be drawing over with spillover on your lines and stuff. And that's a very animator way to approach your draftsmanship. The idea being that you want to keep it flexible so you can bow it and bend it and adjust it if you need to. Because when you're animating, you're going to be doing a lot of searching to like find like to find the right pose, interconnecting in betweens, or what feels natural for how a particular pose plays out. About 21 seconds on this pose. I kind of feel like I want to shorten these to 2s, so then we can concentrate on gesture. So I'm going to do that. Here, I'll pop out of this one 5 seconds early. Put it on 2s. We'll make this a 2s session. This will be fun. 3 seems like way too much time to do this. You can even like do the Glenn-Villepin method on 1s. I might have us do that after we've kind of gotten some 2s under our belt here. And if we feel bold for it tonight, maybe we can try some 30 seconds. Maybe not for a whole 25 minutes, but for like a little bit. And I want to see what people's reaction is to doing it. Like 30 seconds, if you're not ready for it, can be, or if it's your first time doing it, can be kind of crazy. There is also 10-second and 5-second poses, and even 1-second poses. One-second poses you draw like an inch high, basically, and it's like a quick, cuneiform gesture of the drawing. It's a really kind of interesting approach to analyzing the figure. I've only done it once. I've been meaning to try it again, but it is kind of crazy. So I'm making a few notes of some things just for like my own purposes. Like for example, I'm making a little kind of ellipses here to kind of visualize sort of like the cylinders of these limbs and where they are in 3D space a little bit. It's like even though I'm not really concentrating on structure this evening, dipping my toes in it just very slightly can be helpful. Very dynamic figure pose hop here. So let's see if I can capture and push maybe some of the dynamics in it. So he's got that arm here that's kind of compressed against the fence there. Get rid of that. Zoom out a bit. There's a very strong statement coming through the body here of the line of action of the curve of the body. And you can actually pick out an opportunity for a bow and arrow here too. Shorten that a bit. Yours are starting to look so bad. Well, post them in chat, and maybe I can help you kind of bring it back to simplicity a bit. One thing that might help people that might be struggling is maybe I should have you do some line of action approaches a little bit, and I'll show a little bit of how to do that. But links, if you can post your drawings in the Discord chat, I can do a demo for you after the next break, or just in a little bit. Yeah, anyone who's struggling, please say that you're struggling or something and that you want help, so I can prioritize you in the if you post in the Discord chat. If you need a Discord link, let me know, because for some reason the Discord links keep breaking. The ones that are usually posted in here. So I can make a fresh one to give you a Discord invite if you're not a member currently. I'm doing a lot of spillover on this one because this is a tricky pose. You can usually tell when I'm like when a pose is tricky for me. You'll see me kind of like instinctively do these kind of spillover lines. Although if I really fight it, I can avoid doing it. If you notice for this one, I broke up the torso into kind of a curved cube right here to kind of like track the direction of the top of the torso and like the general bend of it and stuff. Like if you want to, and this is and like part of Glenn Villepeu's later methods in this book, you can use these kind of bendy cubes for the torso. Like so. And this one, similarly, I did a flour sack on this one, which is actually an animator exercise, by the way. Animating a flour sack is one of those early animator exercises, which I actually think we may go over doing in my Monday animation class. So my Monday animation class is going to be getting pretty special. Like this Monday will be the first like introductory animation class in a roughly 12-week series that I'm going to be doing of teaching from beginner to advanced animation, intermediate advanced animation, of exercises from the Animators Survival Kit book, which is Richard Williams, the guy who was the principal animator on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the lead animation director on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, who has made an amazing book and also DVD series that's interlinked to the book called the Animators Survival Kit. That's an essential tool used by countless animators in the industry. So starting Monday, we're going to be doing some exercises from that. Do some of the introductory lessons. We're going to be going over timing and spacing. I'm going to give people people who are like beginners something to do, and I'm going to be giving advanced people something a little bit more advanced to do. But if you are more advanced, or if you feel like you want to challenge yourself, you can try both. And I'll be continually giving feedback on people's assignments throughout the weeks. Yeah, but Monday will be about timing and spacing. I'll actually be showing also a demonstration of how to use certain tools that you're going to be using when you're animating, such as rolling and flipping, or the digital equivalent of it, rather, with onion scanning and whatnot. Onion scanning and knowing when to turn the light of your light box off, and so on. I may touch a little bit on like some of the figure drawing we're going to be using over the course of it, because like the way I'm drawing right now is like not too far off from how you would approach like drawing your figures in your animation, basically. Simple, gestural, just concentrating on like movement and action. Like your first pass on animation, who should not look too dissimilar from how we're drawing this evening. Because remember, if something moves well, and even if it's roughly in the ballpark of the volumes of your character that you're animating, then it's going to look great when you layer like anatomical knowledge and shape language and construction on it. And that gestural motion should generally drive the animation. That's why sessions like this are really important for animators. Like, because you get to pay attention to where the weight is in a pose, where the action is, where the acting is, what the acting is doing. I'm going to maybe even see if we can find some good attitude poses to throw into these sessions in the future for acting kind of exercises in our drawing. But yeah, we've got an awful lot of very dynamic posing in these. In the future, I actually want to see if I can mix it up with some more kind of like standing around casually poses that kind of show off like subtler weight changes and so on. But these very pushed ones are pretty fun and flowy to go with. But at some point a figure has to come to rest, especially if you're animating. At some point the figure's not going to be... There has to be contrast. The figure isn't always going to be like doing these hyper-dynamic things. You need contrast, or the dynamics don't work. Like even in studio, even like crazy like studio trigger stuff, you will see a lot of points where the characters aren't really doing much and they're kind of relaxed. Even in the middle of like a really super dynamic, exaggerated sequence. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer?
You've got 6 minutes and 56 seconds to go.
Lovely. So about 3 more poses. How are you doing, Brendan? Is Brendan still here? Yes, Brendan is still here. Lovely. And I see a few other regulars in voice chat. Yeah, that's fine.
What were you saying?
I forgot. Well, a contrast and stuff, like contrast in action posing, like even in like really dynamic stuff in Studio Trigger, for example, you'll see a lot of contrast in like action and inaction, or relaxed action and extreme. That's actually what makes that's the secret formula for Studio Trigger's animation reading so extreme too. Like that. Well, there's a lot of secret formulas to Studio Trigger's approach, but the contrast makes the extremes read even more extreme, basically. There's got to be points where like there's some slack given. It's like if everything is like so dynamic all the time, then there's nothing to like weigh it against. I wonder if we could find an example of that from Sakugaburo real quick during the break, maybe. Yeah, this pose, the way I drew it isn't as pushed as the actual drawing, as the actual figure in front of us is. That happens sometimes. Sometimes helpful to kind of go a little bit beyond what you're seeing with these gesture drawings too, because in the off chance that you wind up like not pushing it enough, at least like because you tried to go beyond what the drawing is, it winds up looking closer to the actual action, which is more pushed than what you would have got if you were kind of imitating the action. Yeah, let's throw our passage on that one real quick. I'm gonna kind of work with my memory of what that pose was doing to kind of push it a bit. Yeah, Brendan. When it comes to weekend stuff, like I canceled my weekend classes and I've been taking weekend breaks. Like keep the whole entire weekend open and stuff. But I think I want to find a way to keep the figure drawing fire burning without burning out. So I definitely want to see about doing some kind of a study shit. Like I feel like the healthy kind of figure drawing practice that like doesn't like put a huge amount of like pressure on you as like some kind of a way to kind of loosen up and stuff might be how to approach it.
Yeah. I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I know it's easier for me to like actually sit down and like do a figure drawing thing when I'm not wanting control, because I'll sit down and like look.
Yeah, let's give it a shot. For sure. I mean, like, one thing I found is, like, one of the more relaxing things you can do is just, like, do a lot of draw-over studies of either, like, live-action photos or of existing art, really good art and stuff. Like, even when you can't think of anything else to do, and if you don't want to put a huge amount of, like, stress and pressure on yourself, you can do that, and you wind up absorbing a lot of really good stuff by just doing that. Might be a good idea to do that with like Micro TC or whoever else we're studying, because that'll help us hook into Michael Hampton for sure, and also like the various anime artists that we're going to be trying to learn from for doing the animation we want to do. Oh god, I didn't push this enough. That's what happens when I talk. Like I lose track of what I'm doing, because like that arm is like, well, let's see if I can fix this. Like, get that arm way under there. That leg. This is a little kind of a tricky pose, though, so. Alright, I'm going to extend the timer a little bit. Okay, Google, add 2 minutes to timer.
Done. 2 minutes added to your 25-minute timer. You've got 2 minutes and 50 seconds left.
Just because this is like such a clear pose compared to that last one, I think it would be good to end this little 25-minute session on a clear to understand note. Like, these profile poses are great to do, especially for newcomers, because it's a lot clearer what's happening, and like foreshortening doesn't get as confusing.
Right. Foreshortening, like I can do it to be like realistic extent, but I'm trying to learn proportions better so I can.
Yeah, inherently you're going to have like your proportions are going to be off inherently with quick sketch like this, and it's okay to not beat yourself up when you get the proportions wrong on these quick sketches. You want to aim for like in the ballpark and stuff, but
yeah,
it's okay to give yourself permission to mess up proportions to a certain degree on like short pose drawings.
Under the hardest time getting right that proportion is the head and the rest of the body.
Yeah, you do kind of have to eyeball it, and
slightly too big.
well, one thing that can help you is if you use the thumb and forefinger method of like kind of measuring out physically how big the head is versus the parts that you draw. I'm sort of eyeballing this, like inherently. Like another thing you can do is like you can, if the head is off in proportion, you can go back into it and adjust the size of the head to what you think would be more proportionate.
Right, that's what I find it being.
Okay, Google, how much time left on the timer?
You've got 47 seconds left.
Let's leave it paused on this because I extended the timer. All right. So I was going to look at some Sakuga Brew stuff during the break. Let's see. Let's look at some Studio Trigger things to see if I can find a good example of what I'm talking about. Alright, here's some stuff from B&A. Oh shit. Did I uninstall the Sakuga Buru extension? Okay, Google, stop. I think I might have, because I think I was like having some trouble with. Oh wait, no, these are no, those are not animation frames. These are stills. Yeah, those are key animation stills. Okay, here's animation. So yeah, I have a thing called Sakuga Extended. I'll link that for folks. But this adds like little features like being able to go frame by frame and download the videos easier and from Sakuga Buru, and also like you get a little mouse over thing where you can see the animation when you mouse over it, like what I'm doing right now on screen. But let's see if we can find a good example of what I'm talking about with contrast somewhere in here. Well, actually, yeah, there's a pretty good example here. This is, I mean, this is good and expressive here, but like what happens later in the action is more pushed in the posing. Like this is, it goes from this to like how extreme this is. Blam. And it's a little bit hard, maybe a little bit hard to see here, but he's really doing a kind of a pushed pose there. And then okay, and then down here, so this is a little bit more relaxed right here, a little bit more relaxed. I mean, it's still exaggerated and stuff, but his actual posing in action is like really relaxed here. And then it gets like more extreme angles and stuff. But it's not as extreme as like this, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we start off here. This is actually very pushed, but then it goes, that gets really pushed. So that's a good example of contrast right there. That's really pushed. And so this is an exaggerated character design, but the actual action is like kind of relaxed because he's down.
Right.
There's some crazy shit happening with his back. And then, blam. Big Cerberus, son of a bitch. But yeah, I mean, like, maybe search by this animator because he seems to have a good grasp of this stuff. I think this is from Dead Leaves. Yeah, this is from Dead Leaves. So Dead Leaves is crazy pushed. So like here, like these are really exaggerated character designs. There's some kind of push stuff happening in the posture a bit, but these are pretty like, in spite of like the crazy effects going off and all around them and so on. Like what they're doing here, like they get kind of relaxed here. And those are very still framey kind of things. Let's see. It's probably there's a lot going on here, so it's a little bit harder to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about with that stuff. But yeah. Let me see if I can find some more stuff from Dead Leaves that might work for this. Because like, Dead Leaves is like really on the high extreme end of like exaggeration.
I love the deep black shading.
So here we go. That's really pushed. Less pushed. More kind of relaxed a bit. But then this crazy sight gag happens here. Pushed. A little bit more pushed. Relaxed a bit. Yeah. It's just 2 frames with a bunch of like extra little effects and stuff happening.
Yeah.
2 frames of extremities. Like this whole sequence is like really pushed and crazy because it's supposed to be for the sequence.
Right.
And this is a little bit more relaxed by contrast to what we just saw.
Yeah.
That's relatively. This is relatively relaxed in terms of intensity. I mean, it's still like dynamic posing and stuff, but then like.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, the really strong moment of the action is this.
Yeah.
Like, bam.
The vacation of forms is really good.
And that sets up this action here. And that's the extreme. That's the extreme of this. So this is all like, This is like, if you're like scaling this on extremity of like 1 to 10, it'd be like, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 7.
Oh wow.
Not 8, 9, 10, something like that right there. Like 8 or 9, 10. Then it kind of scales back a little. So she's, I mean, it's still like hyper dynamic, and like in terms of like the tone of the overall like project, like there's a lot of like pushed contrast, and like you can see like the tilt of the shoulders and the tilt versus the tilt of the hips. Like all the posturing is like all pushed and stylized and so on, but like there's still like those moments of contrast where like there's relaxation and tension and exaggeration and stuff. And that's really key to making good animation. You want contrast in your actions. And we can actually think of that a little bit more going into this next session. Okay, Google, how much time left on timer? Okay, Google, how much time left on timer? I don't think I have.
It looks like you don't
Yeah, I
have
didn't
any
think so.
timers set at the moment.
But we can set a timer and get back into this. So let's see here. How much time we got? Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, starting now.
So I'm going to have us do another set of 2s. Actually, you know what? You guys feel like you want to try 1s? Let's try 1s. Let's do 1s. Here we go. And if it's a little bit too much for people, then we'll go back to 2s. No, we'll go back to 2s. We're not going to be doing a whole session of 1s, like, or whole class. We're not going to be doing like multiple class things of 1s. We're doing at least like this one, or at least part way through this one. Like if I start feeling like this might be a little bit much right now, then we'll go back to it. Or if people are kind of like, I think people should be able to handle 1s. 30 seconds is where it's really going to get crazy, though. There we go. That's the time you have. 5 seconds. You got 1 minute to make a quick, small statement. In fact, you should probably be drawing smaller than you have been drawing the 2s right now, in order to give yourself more real estate and drawing time. Making economic use of your drawing time on these poses. But think about what I was looking at in those Studio Trigger images. Like, think about, is what you're drawing an example of an extremity, or one of the more relaxed poses? This wouldn't be what I would call quite an extremity, but this is definitely a very dynamic action versus something that's a little bit more relaxed. Like, I could potentially see like a touchdown or a like flip the body back point in this that would be way more. In fact, I'm going to draw it real quick. Let's do that. Because I said I was going to do some examples of inventing posing tonight. I'll just do like a quick thing of him touching down. It's a very Halloween image. I think I should try to collect some like really good Halloween acting poses for next week's figure sessions. Yeah, see? Doesn't look too bad. There's more I could definitely do with it, but I'm going to move on to the next pose that's on the screen. I think that would be a good idea, like trying to do one of these 1-minute poses, and then every now and then trying to invent another pose of where it's going or where it came from. Yeah, if people are really struggling with this, we can go back to 2s. So just let me know. Yeah, I mean, it's usually good to do. Sometimes you can do ones as like your starter warm up, because then you don't have to be, because then it forces you to kind of speed up and make quick decisions and shit. But other times it's a good idea to start with 2s, because you're kind of doing like a slow motion version of what you're going to be doing on the 1s. It really depends. Like the way you warm up and the way you practice can be very versatile. It's a good idea to mix it up. I wonder if we could get Tanika in on some of our figure sessions, or our internal practice sessions. I wonder if he'd be interested in participating a bit. I know he would probably be interested in like some of the Sakuga stuff, because like in addition, like Brendan, some of the stuff I want to go over with us internally is like practicing like Sakuga stuff. Like doing some study of like principles of that Sakuga animators use in their work. I got some tidbits of information from Taniko actually on that, because like he's worked with Spencer Wan and stuff, who's given him a lot of good pointers on that stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to.
I'll try at least like prodding him for information. Even if he doesn't practice in our sessions, he might be able to help give us some like suggestions of what to study.
Right.
He has given me permission for us to use his like animation courses as study fodder too, though. So we do have that available to us. Yeah, these are fun. I think like I was trying to do a lot of 2s and 3s this week that I should have been doing as 1s. Because I was like concentrating on the gesture drawing that I didn't really know what to do with the remaining time, and kind of puttered around when I should be mixing things up with some 1s like this. And then go back to 2s and 3s and maybe 5s or whatever. You want to like try to do one aspect of the approach to drawing well before you move on to others. In this case, like 1-minute gestures. This will be like phase 1 of a quick sketch that you do. I'll mix it up with some athletic poses in a bit, because a lot of these in this folder are dance poses that are kind of a similar sort of ballet sort of thing going on here. So I'll bring in some athletic poses and some other things shortly, or for the next session. Also, if you notice, there's a very clear, in the silhouette, you can see the bow and arrow right there in the lady's shirt. Ain't that nice? Did you think it was a dude?
The hair threw me off.
I mean, it doesn't matter. It's a pose. You're not really like recording accurate anatomical information with these anyway. So.
Yeah.
That giant hand. What do they call that, kids? They call that forced perspective, which is also a essential tool of animators. We saw some really great examples of forced perspective on the dead leaves stuff we just looked at. A lot of that stuff does not really follow the accurate rules of perspective. It follows its own kind of internal logic exaggerated version of perspective. Mm-hmm. And they're hardly the only animation studio to do that. Like, they're just really notable for a particularly like stylish posed approach like that. Like, there's a long tradition of that kind of pushed, exaggerated stuff in like so much anime, and actually in a lot of Western animation too, if you look around. It is very interesting how much like the role that like forced perspective animating has played in Japanese animation, though. Like there's this weird sense of like internal integrity to it from that.
Yeah.
Like game pieces, like you're looking at game pieces on a game board almost a little bit.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
As opposed to like flat, like I don't know, like Peanuts characters looking things or something.
Mm-hmm.
Western newspaper comic strip looking stuff. It's somehow just like tilting stuff off in a way that looks like it's following some kind of perspective rules in animation, and like having it like change in how it looks according to like those perspective guides, like kind of adds like more oomph and interest and visual interest to it, to what's being drawn or whatever. Versus a lot of Western, especially Western like comedy animation and comics and stuff tends to like be very flat.
Yeah.
But, like a lot of Asian animation, not always. Some of it is pretty flat too, but a lot of it, especially the more dynamic stuff, tends to like play with the rules of perspective a lot.
I was impressed by like the American cartoon visually, and like the Legend of Korra was a primal.
Yeah, that one was a mix of like Western and Eastern animators too. Castlevania is kind of similar too.
Oh yeah.
Castlevania's actually got even more Western animators on it than Korra ever did, though. Because a lot more Western animators. Flying Barks, Rise of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would even put Glitch Tex. Glitch Tex is in there. There's some stuff in Kipo. Although I think Kipo is animated in Korea, but there's some stuff in Kipo and the Wonder Beasts that's in that vein. There's stuff in the Voltron DreamWorks series. It's by Western animator. I don't like this dude. Trying to think. There's a lot of stuff, and not just like stuff that's been like made into like Netflix series or whatever. Like there's been like a lot of like animated shorts with their own fan bases that have been pushing this shit. And you've seen it in a lot of games too, like indie games and stuff. That kind of approach. Short films, and stuff that are utilizing that stuff. Huh?
Dang, this guy's built.
Yeah, he is. His knee's really high up there too. Yeah.
Oh, it's a shadow of his knee. Okay. What is happening?
One of my not really a bucket list thing, but one of my I was gonna say animator bucket list things to do when like COVID stops is try to make buddies with some Hollywood stunt people, so I can talk about them regarding like fight choreography and getting photo and video reference and stuff.
Yeah.
Shooting photo and video reference of yourself is one of those things I'm going to go over in our class. I'm a little reluctant to show off my own, but I'll be showing how to utilize it at the very least. Like I don't really like appearing on camera. I'll figure something out though.
Yeah.
I want to show people how to shoot your own video reference and use your own video reference and use your own body. But I'm a little camera shy, so I'll figure some way around it. I use somebody else's video Miles has actually been shooting video reference. I don't think has she shared you the animation she's been working on? Yeah, no, she hasn't posted it in the concepting chat. It's pretty neat. Well, because it's for her own project. It's not for us, but like what she's doing in it is like not too far off the mark from ours. It's her first attempt at really animating per se, so she's doing a lot of heavy rotoscoping, but she has like a really strong sense of the human figure. So it's maybe I can show a little bit of it here. I'm going to bring it on screen. But yeah, I mean, this is what I'm talking about when I say that like people who are really good draftsmen to begin with, they're easier to teach how to animate than versus like someone who is learned animation but isn't a very good draftsman. It's harder to teach them good draftsmanship.
Right.
So this character is not for our project, but whoops, I better mute that. Actually, there might be some copyrighted music in there. What? Why is it not meant? Okay, good. I think I muted it. All right, here it is. I think this is formatted weird because she put it on her Instagram. Or, yeah. Yeah. It's on stream.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, here, I'll replay it real quick.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's rotoscope from her.
Animated
She shot video reference of herself.
Okay.
So my feedback on her is that it's a good exercise, and I think that like she's getting a lot out of doing it and stuff, and this is good for understanding action and so on. But I personally think that like well, I'll go over a little bit what I have in mind with it, but it's a little too rotoscopy for my liking.
Right.
And what I would want to see her do with it is, part of it is she can set up her live action by editing the live action so that it stylizes the timing on it a little bit.
Right.
And also especially like have you ever seen like a lot of like the more humanistic looking Japanese anime that looks like it was probably referenced from real life a lot? but like the action is like like hyper real, where like it feels more real than it would if they just rotoscoped it, kind of.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, there's like a few secrets to that, and one of them is like the actions are actually handled slower than they would be handled in real life, because it gives you more time to register what's happening, and yeah, and it gives more time to like register also the beauty of the actual action itself and stuff. Like even though in real life the person would actually perform the action a lot faster, and there's also like much fewer like frames, kind of like they pick strong, they slightly plus the posing that happens there and stylize it a little bit.
Interesting.
There's also Western versions of that sort of thing that take it to extremities. Like, let's see, you know the guy who did the Adobe the breaking up with Adobe video? James Lee. I've got him on screen now. I hope I don't get doinked for this, but okay, I'll mute it. But he films himself. He does like exaggerate it a little bit with some Photoshop editing and some other things. But like he uses himself as like a stop motion puppet basically, but exaggerates himself in the way that what the I thought Photoshop was opening, but it was part of the video for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like he stylizes his actions a lot. There's a really good one in here somewhere.
That's really interesting.
He uses a lot of like poses where the character isn't moving too much, or when it does like a really kind of quick action like that, for example, and like a really strong held moment. And this is like principles of animation and stuff. Like you'd want to maybe like edit your live action footage reference so that so that you use yourself like a stop motion puppet kind of, and then you can use that as a basis for your animation. Okay, Google stop. But that's like an extreme end of that sort of thing. That's like less humanized sort of action and way more kind of like stylized, kind of like cartoony stylized looking stuff.
Right.
As opposed to like the more the humanized animation of like a lot of Japanese films. Let me see if I can find a good example of that. It's like Huga. Or Tokyo. I think Tokyo Sinks 2020. Japan Sinks 2020. Japan Sinks 2020, which is up on YouTube, and I strongly recommend. But it is also a very soul-crushing series. It has exactly that kind of animation.
It wasn't that good.
Huh?
I heard it was not good.
No, it's good. It's great.
Oh, no.
But here's an example, like on screen right now, of that sort of thing. Like this is based on like
Oh wow.
this is based on live action footage reference and stuff. And of like the animators often shooting themselves or using reference footage of stuff, and you can kind of tell. But it's stylized. Like the way the timing of the action is, the time and displacement of the action is different. That's definitely happening here too. And they also like follow the character model designs that they have and so on. There's a lot of points in the show where it like goes like where the characters look way more cartooned, and sometimes they look way more detailed and humanized. Like this is one of the more detailed and humanized moments with the character crying that was on screen. This one's very limited animation. I don't think this one will be the best example, but I mean, let's see here. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Oof. Yeah, this one is definitely a good example of this sort of thing. Also on screen right now, this guy is one of the best characters in the entire thing too. You get to know him really well over the course of the series. I love the reaction to it. If you notice, like there's like a kind of this interesting sort of timing to it. Okay, Google, set timer 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Starting now.
That's our break timer right now, by the way. But yeah, like even in like the still poses here, there's like a tremendous degree of stylization going on here with how that body's twisted and so on. How the body falls up over here too. His very stylized posturing here, which is of course based on a live action reference that an animator took. But they found like interesting ways of posing it and stylizing it, and you can see like you can actually like think of like his entire body as being a single kind of pointed mass here for everything that's happening here. You see, so you can kind of like see like the like even like the top of his head kind of reinforces it, but like his entire body can be thought of as one big singular mass, basically.
Right.
In terms of what's happening here. Moving off to the right, like crouching down, bending over and stuff, reacting to seeing the body. So it's like this kind of hyper real, hyper stylized action stuff. So we're going to be taking a look at that stuff for sure. But yeah, like that's what I'm talking about. I should definitely show Miles some of that stuff. There's actually like a video. I think there was like a video on like Satoshi Kon, how Satoshi Kon plays with animation and reality and whatever, that talks specifically about that technique. It was either Satoshi Kon or it was like some other thing. I have to dig it out. But there was like a anime media critic analysis of like that particular approach to like humanized animation that I found particularly insightful. I've got access to some Japanese animators I could ask about this stuff too, so maybe I should do that. Yeah, I gotta remember I should buzz them because I should let them know what we're planning on doing with our project, and they can point us in the direction of things that we should definitely try to do over the course of this project. So I may try putting some of the thumbnails for our also get on our game project real quick, Brendan. I may try putting some of the thumbnails I've done so far to our trailer. I have written down notes of what I have in mind for what I want to do with this, like the song stuff on the scratch track and so on. But I'm planning on using Storyboard Pro for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I should be able to do it quickly. I meant to actually install my copy of it this evening. Gonna maybe do that after class. But yeah, I want to do the stuff. I want to do it really quickly and bang it out, because then like I can kind of visualize what I have in mind and then work with it. And I would hope that I could do it like around some of you guys too, so we could kind of vibe and come up with and like bang ideas off each other and whatever. Okay, Google, stop.
Yeah.
Alright, okay, so what are we going to do next? I kept this thing going, didn't I? I really like those 1 minute poses. Are people cool with doing more 1 minute poses? How much time we got left in the session? We got about 2 more sessions. So people cool with it? Do you guys want to meet? You guys maybe, yeah. Japan Sinks 2020 Tepucks. That's the name of the show. It's on Netflix, and I strongly recommend it. It's from the creator of Devilman Crybaby and Keep Your Hands Off Aizuken. Amazing animator, amazing director. Who for me personally is the modern day Miyazaki. in terms of who I admire for anime directors. All right, so you guys want to do more 1-minute poses, or do you want to try some 30 seconds? I kind of like those 1-minute poses. I think I want to do some more of those. What do you guys think? Depth. If you having trouble with who's me, by the way? Let's take a look at chat. Some people are talking about, I like Haruko Ichihaka's art. She's not an animator, but she's a mangaka. Love Keep Your Heads Up, Isaacin. Yeah. Masaki Uwasa, yeah. I was brain farting for him, but he's like my favorite director right now for anime productions. Yeah, some more stuff from Brendan. Looking good. Those are looking really nice right here. Becks of all trades right there. Those are looking really, really nice. There's little issues here and there, but these are 1-minute poses, and I know how long it takes to do 1-minute poses, and so these are really nice. Who was asking for critique again? Raboots, look at Becks of all trades' page. Not all of them are the best. Like, I'm not a fan of like the symmetry that's going on here with the interior of those thighs, for example. But overall, like this page, there's a lot of really good stuff on Becks of all trades' page here. Raboots. You're not far off, Raboots, but I think you should peel back from. You're putting too much detail and getting kind of like Michelin Man effect stuff. That's kind of detracting from the gesture of your drawings a bit. You want look at Becks of all trades' page and kind of aim for that. You want to go for simple, elegant posing and stuff. Simple style is elegant posing. You can kind of start to sort of feel out the dimensionality of it as you do it, because you're kind of peeling yourself back to just like reducing the figure to a wireframe. You can start to kind of think about how the hips tilt and stuff. If you really need to, you can add like a little tilt line for where stuff is, and so on. But you're getting too overly complicated and making the figures into piecemeal. Like I think the strongest figure on this page here is that large one in the middle left side. You're also drawing really small, it looks like, too. Really small and sketchy. The reason why this one's the strongest one that I'm seeing so far is because there's this really strong line of action down to the foot, but then all this other like super scribbly stuff you added to it kind of detracts from it. And also, another thing you want to do in the future is I want you to do draw-overs of photographs, trying to find the line of action and other things. Because I think that will help you kind of start to read how the figure works three-dimensionally a little bit better. Because it's kind of hard to kind of, if you're not really used to understanding how the figure works, it can be kind of tricky to make that little point of translation. So try to mix up what you're doing with like do a lot of like draw-over studies trying to find the line of action and poses and stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna beat everyone's asses right now, and I'm gonna do 30-second poses, at least for a little bit. We'll just see how people can handle it tonight, and then I'll probably go back to 1 minute after a little bit of this. Let me see how much time we have left. 2 hours and 15 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer for 20 minutes.
20 minutes, starting now.
All right. Also, I've moved my... Oh, let me change that. All right, so a couple tips about doing 30-second poses. Try not to pick your pencil off the page. Try to make smart decisions within the continuous line that you're doing. Don't worry if you don't get the whole figure. Just try to make like the strongest statement you can with like the longest line of action that you can. Like there. Draw small also. Try to keep the pose pretty contained. Using the Japanese cuneiform looking method that I was talking about with like reducing the pose to like simple lines and stuff will definitely help. I'm gonna do like a few of. I'm gonna do like not a huge amount of these, just enough to kind of like give you guys a taste of this, because I kind of want to see what people's impression of this is. But you're gonna find if you struggle with these, going back to 1 minute is gonna feel a lot easier, and you're gonna have a little bit more insight into doing your 1 minute poses too. Like you're kind of forced into making quick decisions on these, quick smart decisions. And it feels weird, but you have to like kind of slow down to speed up. Like if you notice, I'm drawing very slow lines here because I'm kind of thinking about what angle and trajectory I'm going to take with my pen. Because I only have so much time to make these decisions, so I better make the shot count. Like I don't have time to like scribble around and search. I have to be concise and deliberate. I better shrink these. Should be actually really small. But when you start like vibing with these, they're really fun to do. I don't think I have enough time to do this whole pose because I wasted precious seconds resizing stuff, but I'll try. Let's do that. But yeah, you have to make like simple, concise, precise decisions. And again, it's okay to mess up. I kind of broke my rule about continuous line for that one. That's okay. Oh, this pose again. Why does this pose keep coming up? There isn't any time to get overly complicated with these. So for this one, I'm actually handling these as 10-second poses. There's a 10-second pose. There's a 10-second pose. Oh, we've seen this pose before, haven't we? But now do the 30-second version. Different variable timings in these sessions with the same poses will let you try different approaches, which is not unlike what Soulcore has people doing for homework. Soulcore being one of our other art instructors in the Discord. Oh, I messed up those legs, but okay. I have to keep moving. So, you've got to make a clear, concise decision and make it quickly about what you're going to do. And I am getting close to my limit with doing these 30 seconds, so we're going to go back to doing minutes after maybe about like 2 or 3 more of these. But I feel like if I do too many of these, I feel like I'm going to just get sloppy. But these are great to dip into. I think we have to get more acclimated to doing more of these in the future to really do like multiple sessions of 30-second posing, or a full session of 30-second posing. But I think dipping people's toes in them. So we'll do one more pose after this one, I think, of 30 seconds, before going back to 1 minute. But when you go back to 1 minute, try approaching the 1 minute pose as your initial drawing, how you approach the 30-second pose. If you were getting good gestural results out of it. Or try slowing down even more. Like, it seems really weird and counterintuitive, but you actually speed up when you slow down. When you're making smarter decisions in your figure drawing. You spend less time wasting, making unnecessary lines. Alright, so we're going to switch back to 1 minute. We're back on ones. So I deliberately did that because I think it would be good to do 30-second posing so that people like Raboots, who I just gave some feedback to, I want to force them to just make it about the line of action for a little bit. And I want you, Raboots, to do that, like for these ones too, now that you have more time to slow down and think. And then I'm going to start creeping back in the Glenville Pooh stuff. I'm going to start creeping back in some structure drawing into these. I have more time to think and more time to use in my budget for the poses. I've done that before. Well, I haven't drawn this one, so... So I just creeped back a little bit of the Vilpoo stuff with those ovoid heads. I'm going to start creeping back some more into it. Let's bring the Glenville Pooh demo stuff on screen again, to remind ourselves what we were looking at earlier. Alright, so I'm going to go full Vilpoo on this one. You could do some really funny stuff with stylizing this pose, I think. And get a little taste of it, I think. Draw with a really light hand on that. Just kind of plot out the overall shape of it. I kind of feel like I would love to come back to this pose because it's such a wildly stylized pose. I feel like I put more thought into this one. I could get something really funny out of it. But it's an unusual pose I've never drawn before, so... Oh, we've seen this one before. No, getting rid of that. We got the whole side of the body there. The whole arm there. Just take a quick gesture for that other arm. Just get kind of a flowing line of action for the leg. Torso's more foreshortened than what I drew, but that's okay for this little 1 minute study. Not as pushed as it could have been. So an awful lot of these kind of dance poses with like the back leg up, way up, like this, in this folder that I made. So I think I may switch it to some athletes, I think, shortly. Just to give us some variety, because we've drawn poses very similar to this multiple times this evening. It's time for a little variety. I do like the feeling in this pose, though. So one thing I didn't really get to tonight is the continuous action pose invention stuff, which is okay. I think tonight I kind of tend to roll with whatever I think would be valuable to demo, and whatever I think would be valuable actually for me to practice, because these are also art workout sessions for me too. So I did do like one little bit of invention tonight with that one pose that I created a touchdown drawing of. But my instinct is telling me this evening it's better to concentrate on the observation of these posing. That's why I've been kind of like making the demos I've been doing really short, so I can get my workout in along with you guys. This is a cool pose. You could even use like her hair as part of the line of action for the whole sweep through the whole body, and that whole lovely C curve that kind of terminates into a straight down here. Let's pull that over here so I have more room to draw. Also, keep in mind, folks, you should be doing this kind of stuff yourselves, like every day if you can help it. I'm going to be doing some more of this myself tomorrow, possibly with some of the people in my game dev group, or I'll just be doing it in the Discord, hanging out in voice chat or whatever. But I'm feeling pretty good about tonight's session. I think I'm getting a good art workout, and I feel pretty juiced with this stuff. Oh, did I show, I don't think I showed Miles's art corrections, did I? Did I show Miles's art corrections of my game dev work? Yeah, I don't think I did. Yeah, I think I should during the next break. Please remind me if I forget. Because I want to show you, like, folks, you want to surround yourself with people who are better than you, so that you can learn from, so that they can give you insight, and so you can use their hand and their eye to key you into things that you have trouble seeing. You want to surround yourself with peers who are better than you, who are able to give you feedback and stuff, and that's part of what the point of the game dev project is that we're working on. So like I give drawovers to Miles with stuff that because she's not an animator, and I've got an understanding of motion that she doesn't have, and she has really amazing, like, oh my god, she's gonna, if she really like takes to animation, she could be a freaking like, she could become like a modern day Milk Hall or something. I mean, Milk Hall being one of Disney's 9 old men. who was like the main guy who would like animate all like the really human characters in the classic Disney films and stuff, because he was like the best draftsman by far, and arguably the best animator of them. Oh, it's this guy again. But yeah, that reminds me, Brennan. Part of this weekend, I'm going to be going over some of the materials with you guys that I'm going to be using for Monday's animation class. Because I want, if you guys do show up, I would love a little bit of participation, and also not just that, but to review. Like, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to animate, and so it'll be an opportunity for me to like prep for the class that I'm going to be teaching as well. So I'll go over some of that this weekend a bit with you guys in the Discord. It's not going to be anything huge. It's just like enough to kind of like touch base on the subject matter. I mean, like if we do put any like serious work in over the weekend, I want it to be concentrated on the figure drawing stuff that we wanted to kind of do like tomorrow with like Mike Batisi and some other things. But I at least wanted to like kind of like go over some of the stuff that I'm going to be teaching, so that you guys will have your first introduction to it ahead of the class. Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about the 12 principles of animation? Well, goody, you're going to learn them. Don't be so worried. It's actually like when you get into animation, it's very rewarding. And we're going to be taking it step by step. We're not going to be overwhelming ourselves with things we can't handle. And honestly, like the way you draw your characters, you're not that far off from if you design like two contrasting key poses that kind of like work together, that's enough for you to work with for making animation. So you're already a good ways there. There's more technical stuff that you can't really cheat, though, that you're also going to have to get into, which like walks, for example. Walks are one of the hardest things to do in animation. I previously taught a walks class, but I got kind of discouraged because I got kind of burned out doing it. But I'm in way better shape for like pacing myself for teaching those classes than I was when I did that last time. So walks are going to be a very important thing that we're going to be spending a good deal of energy with. And that one is something that they're actually not that hard. They're actually not that like they're not that aggravating to get into, but with designing walks, the sky is kind of the limit, because of just like there's just so much stuff that can be done with them, and they can be really simple or really complicated depending on what you're doing with them. Okay, Google, stop. I would say that the toughest thing in animation, by the way, according to a lot of probably the toughest thing in animation to animate is a horse canter, by the way. That's a particular type of walk. Yeah. As opposed to there's horse walk, there's horse run, and there's horse canter. A canter is that kind of like hopping sort of thing. If you ever seen like a horse that's not really running, it's kind of like pop, 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 pop a little bit when it's like either like it's like not really galloping, but it's That is really hard to animate because there's a lot of stuff happening in it, like a lot. A horse gallop and a horse walk are easier to do. A horse gallop is way easier to do than a horse walk, and Horse walk is easier to do than a canter. And then try adding a horse canter in perspective, where you are also doing character acting and animal acting on the horse. And you start to appreciate just how much of a brilliant fucking genius James Baxter is. Who's the guy who's behind the animated horse film Spirit, and who also did the James Baxter character in Adventure Time, who was literally a horse that he animated as a guest animator. The joke of that episode is that James Baxter, the character in that short, was really really good at pleasing people with the tricks that he was doing on this kind of ball and stuff. And Finn and Jake got jealous, and they were trying to do their own version of his tricks. But then they kind of accept, maybe we can't all be James Baxter, and it's okay. We have our own thing we do. And yeah. It's like Penn Ward. Penn Ward wanted so much to be like James Baxter, and he kind of went through the same thing, basically. James Baxter. Let me see if we can bring the animation on screen. James Baxter GIF. Yeah, there's some GIFs of it. They literally just named the horse James Baxter. There he is. That was animated by James Baxter. The little GIF that's on screen here. Several GIFs. So it's like an Adventure Time style character, but it's animated exquisitely well. I'll probably post these in the Discord too, but yeah, this is some of his animation that he did for Adventure Time. Wow. Literally, his only line of dialogue is James Baxter. Whoa. Oh, and here's some actual stuff from. Oh wow, and that's really cool. I'd actually want to find some more of his Spirit stuff, but yeah, that's really cool. So there's showing anatomy of a horse running. I think he was doing this to I think this was a demonstration either done. This is either done for a class that he was teaching later on, or this was done for the other animators on Spirit or something. James Baxter.
Right.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I think he actually did. If this is by him, I think this was a test of the horse character from Tangled. Because Disney would often do 2D animation tests of the 3D characters. I think that was a 2D animation test of because they did stuff for Wreck-It Ralph, that too, and a bunch of other things. That's really fucking good though. Look at that. So that's a horse walk. That's not a horse canter.
Right.
Let's see if we can find a James Baxter horse canter in here somewhere. That is not a horse canter. Oh, there's a canter. Just a really quick canter, but it's there. How much time we got? Cool. I'll give us about 2 more minutes. Okay, Google, set timer 2 minutes.
2 minutes, and we're starting now.
So we don't see. Yeah, we'll just go back into this for our last session. Let's finish off with. I mean, it felt really good about doing the ones, but let's finish off with some twos. I think finishing off with some twos would be cool. Yeah, I know. James Baxter's sense of construction and stuff in 3D form and everything, and understanding of these horses, the forms of the horses that he draws, is very, very 3D feeling. Yeah.
Shapes, I can see.
And also this shows you the value of having really simple character designs, because this is a simple character design, but it is still, the way it moves is still based on an extensive knowledge of how horses move.
Yeah.
It's stylized and stuff too, but I really love it when they have like simple character. I love it and you see it in a lot of better anime too, when they have like really super simple character designs that move really exquisitely.
Right.
Yeah, the James. Yeah, you're right. James Baxter did the Hunchback. James Baxter. This has turned into a James Baxter geek out session. I think it's Prince of Egypt there. That's also by him.
Yeah.
Looks like he probably did that shot. I think it was probably Glenn Keane and him. James Baxter. Yeah, he did work on Beauty and the Beast. Oh yeah, he did this. He did this Adventure Time. I assume not Adventure. Steven Universe. Bit like that really good animation at the. Okay, Google, stop. That really good animation at like the end of one of the seasons of Steven Universe.
On everybody on Twitter.
Yeah, that was by him.
I see.
But I love it's the same thing with Steven Universe. Like I love it when you have like really fairly simple characters that are animated like really exquisitely. And hopefully we can get something out of that with what we're doing with our thing. Like I want to try to simplify our dude. I want to keep him looking cool, but let's take a quick peek at him before we go back to drawing the session real quick, because I want to show what we're kind of messing with our game right now. So this is a character design I did. Did I do this morning? Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I did this morning. We're kind of working out the character design of the protagonist of this game that we're making. But I have a lot of like anatomy things I struggle with and so on. So luckily we have an anatomy expert on our team, Miles, who did a lovely draw over of my character that I'm going to be using as a guideline because like this is the kind of stuff that you get like notes back on your animation and then you correct it yourself. If you're trying to like teach an assistant or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, she did a really good one here on my 3/4 view. She even made some notes down here too, which is good. Yeah, and there was like a balance issue with this pose. It's hard for me to read that because like again, I'm kind of poopy at this stuff. I get kind of caught up in details, and I'm
Yeah.
my sense of my intuitive sense of the figure isn't as good as hers is, and hers is really rooted in really solid construction and anatomy. But the idea of this project is that I would mind meld with her and the other people on the staff and step up our game so that I start like picking up more of this and integrating more of this. Like ideally I'd want to get like I design animation frames and then she does drawing corrections here and there, and I do like also draw overs on her to show her how to push the motion or exaggerate the timing or whatever.
Right.
And like her approach here, like this, I want to actually talk to her about like the way that she did this is like a really nice way to simplify the figure. I also want to see about how we can handle the boots a little better, because I have some ideas for that. The boots and the maybe creases of the fabric in the pants. But we want to definitely keep it simple so that like the figure is like very simple to construct.
Right.
He seems fun. I also want to see if maybe we can get a draw over from you on some of it too, because like I want to see more of your design injected into it a little bit.
Yeah.
And here's some of Brendan's work on it. Alternate heads of the protagonist. There's the villain that I'm messing with for this. See if there's anything else. This is a run cycle test I did of the protagonist a while ago. the human form of the protagonist. Anyway, we're gonna get back to the class here. Let's set it for 25 minutes. Okay, Google, set timer 25 minutes.
25 minutes, and that's starting now.
We'll just do 2s. I might dip out from this to put it on 3s, or maybe even some 5s at the very end too. Now we got 2s, so that means I'm going to finish off here. I'm going to draw very lightly. I'm going to like try injecting a little bit more structure into this stuff. I'm going to use like a bendy cube for the torso there. Just going to draw light. I might keep it to like a vignette. Might not draw the whole figure. Or if I do, I'll just add like little indications of the rest of the pose or something. I'm going to start injecting maybe a little bit of the Loomis head stuff that I haven't been practicing lately into this too, maybe. Our old friend the Loomis head, which I still have. I'm really glad that I've gotten intuitive into my arsenal as an artist. In fact, I'm going to take a little detour to do a quick Loomis head. I should do some head stuff for the protagonists, where we really kind of like focus on head construction, because there's going to be close-ups of the character. That, and we have to kind of like work out the expressions and so on, the construction of the face. So I should be doing that tomorrow, a little bit maybe, or sometime over the weekend. Oh, this lady again. So for these, I'm going to be adding like a side plane to the head. I may not draw out a whole Loomis head for some of these, but I'm going to add like at least enough of a detail to like add in that little kind of like crash test dummy side plane. Let's see, there's like kind of an upper mass for the torso here. And there's like the buttocks would be maybe about here. It's kind of like little bread bun sort of thing going on there. And then I just have to kind of guess what's going on here, because this is a really kind of strange pose. The homework for this is to keep doing poses like these and do some drawovers and stuff. Also, like at the beginning of the class, I showed a lot of books, a lot of drawing books. I'll maybe show a little bit of them at the end here. But I have a lot of recommended drawing books. I'm going to get together more of a syllabus in the future of like recommended drawing classes, drawing courses, and drawing tutorials and things and stuff you can go for that would help you on your figure drawing journey. And part of the homework this week will be to try to see if you can acquire some of those books, or at least one of them, one or two of them, and start studying from them, like draw copies from it, get used to using it. My homework this week will be to continue what you're doing here, and to try to get a little bit of figure drawing in every day at least. If you're in Soul Cora's class, you can concentrate on the homework for her class too, if you like. And then you can use what you do in relation to this as like a way to kind of loosen up a bit. Even combine the two, because I believe Soul Core is like kind of homework involves a lot of different varied quick poses. That's actually something I kind of want to experiment with for a future session, where we like take a pose and we do like a 30-second version, we do a 1-minute version, then we do like a 2-minute version, and 5-minute version, and so on. Kind of like what she does. So Michael, if you why did I say Michael? Brendan. And Brendan, even if it's just you and me tomorrow, that'll be fine. Because then we can do like a one-on-one study session. We can go over some stuff that would be really helpful and would also help the other people about, like, on the team when we get some insight into what we're doing. Like there's a lot of like tutorial videos and book stuff for us to start digging through. We'll take a look at Mike Battisti mainly, probably do like a reading of his stuff or whatever videos related to him that might be helpful to look at, and then see what else might help us. When I've studied him in the past, I have a tendency, it's like sometimes it clicks for a little bit, but then I start to kind of like get gushy with it. So I kind of want to see if we can really try to maintain the integrity of how we strategize about maintaining the integrity of the anatomy and the pose. Like we want really strong figure drawing. Tuesday tips. Have you seen Liz and what's his face's Tuesday tips pages? I'll bring those on screen. But Tuesday tips. Those are free, by the way, so I could actually be using them in these classes as reference for stuff for people to concentrate on for these sessions. And I think that I've met them, by the way, at like CTN Expo. I think they'd be just fine with using what they got as like study fodder for these like sessions here. Tuesday's Tips by Liz and I forget what the other guy's name is, but they're like a wife and husband animation artist combo who have this series of blog posts called Tuesday Tips, which are like these big kind of hand-drawn instructional tips on like figure drawing and composition and storyboarding and other things like that. They have a lot of great stuff on gesture drawing and figure construction and other things, and they're both very like kind of Disney animator oriented. Yeah, have fun with it, Mary Buns. In chat, by the way, like, you want to draw at least a little bit every day, but you want to put in more hours when you're able to. Don't burn yourself out. You want to be trying to improve a little bit every day that you can. If you're having trouble with proportions, that's a sign for you to study proportions of somebody like Andrew Loomis, who lays out how the body is proportioned by like sizes of heads. And also that's a sign for you to slow down and measure and do longer pose drawings, like drawings that you might even spend a good like 30 minutes or an hour on a single pose for. We might do some of those in the future. I've been concentrating on like quick poses lately because it's very animator oriented, but even for animators it's valuable to do long poses sometimes. So when I figure out a way to, I think that like when we get further into Mike Battisti stuff, then we'll be able to do it. Because like the way that we'd approach the long pose drawings would be a way that is still valuable for animators, even though it's like a really more thought out pose, you know. But we'll see. Because the focus I put on is on the kind of drawing that would be valuable more for animators here. So longer poses tend to get de-emphasized because of that. But longer poses are like the value of longer poses for animators is it's like an opportunity to really slow down and think and really like observe. And then that stuff, understanding that information and ingraining that information that you've really spent a lot of time focusing on getting right for that pose, winds up filtering itself into your quicker drawings. So it's a good idea to do a mix of long and short pose drawings and stuff. But we'll take a look at that. Like part of what I want to do with you tomorrow, Brendan, is like to kind of strategize about how we're going to study and we're going to kind of, you and I and the other people on the team are going to kind of evolve how we study over time. I'm definitely going to ask Miles like what stuff she's gotten the most value out of studying too. The other thing about she's got like an amazing work ethic when it comes to this stuff too. So cultivating that is going to be a big deal for sure. So there's little bits of things from other stuff I've studied in the last several months that sometimes come out of me when I'm doing these. Like I just noticed the Proco bean just came out of me for doing that kind of like flower sac body. Yeah, definitely part of what I'm going to be doing in the course of studying tomorrow is like slowing down to like pay attention, because I want to really like don't want to like rush through what Mike Matisse teaches, and I really want to think about it and how to apply it, and what other missing pieces of the puzzle I need in order to like get the results I need in addition to whatever he's doing. Like if it's necessary to combine him with some other stuff. He might have a bibliography in his book that might help with that too. I'll take a look. Yeah. Right now we're just kind of winding down. I'm sort of feeling this out. I'm thinking I've got Mike Matisse on my mind right now. It's going to be interesting to see how much of a difference kicking off studying like that this week will make, though. Doing a little figure invention here. I mean, I've known this forever, but like the secret sauce to getting good is to like be drawing a lot every day, because then you don't have to like start from zero as much. you can kind of feel through the rhythms, and your eye is working, your hand is working. You're making like the mental connections better because you're keeping up the drawing. I've been kind of had to be a little careful about that because I have a tendency to burn myself out if I ever do it. But I think I'm ready to go tomorrow as far as like getting extracurricular study stuff goes in. Someone said, "Wow, I'm late. Is this just a chill type of stream?" We're finishing up a 3-hour session. I may go over a few things because I want to kind of maybe nerd out a bit over some of the stuff we're going to be studying. Me and Brendan and whoever else on the game dev team. I may grab some people from like the regular Discord, the Ethan Becker Discord, who are interested in studying too. Depends. I don't want to like kind of like overwhelm things. I want to like keep some very serious-minded people together, you know? So we'll see about that. But the good thing is like anything I study from that, I'm going to be able to give insight into during these future class sessions and stuff. So we're going to struggle with stuff and try to figure out how to strategize things, and I'll be able to make more informed suggestions of how people here can study based on what we've kind of figured out. I'm just kind of finishing off the evening with like some random figure invention. It's kind of playing with the same flow of lines that we were playing this evening with. You should feel free to do this too sometimes during your figure drawing sessions. Like, try inventing poses for a little bit using the mannequins that you've been using. Because you're going to have to invent poses and stylize poses from reference, and you're going to have to invent motion and action when you're animating. So practicing in the safe, controlled environment of like a figure drawing session, or your sketchbook for that matter, is a good place to kind of practice it a bit. These are 2-minute poses, I believe. Yeah. I'm not drawing them now because like I said, I'm closing out the evening with some figure invention. Playing with the rhythms of what we've been using this evening. thinking a little bit about the character that we're making for our game, and like, it's easy to get like caught up in the character design sometimes, or like the limitations of my drawing to be able to design that character. So like, just taking it back to like simple gesture like this kind of liberates me to just thinking about posing and attitude and stuff. I'm sort of playing with this as if like I have like the puppet of the character pictured in my head. These are kind of non-specific attitude poses right now because I'm sort of getting loosened up. But let's see here, what could I do with like an attitude pose for him? Well, you can draw from imagination if you want. That's what I'm doing right now. But because I feel like drawing from imagination right now, after what I've done this evening, would probably be the best thing to do for me personally. The rest of you here would probably be better off, especially if you're pretty new, continuing to draw from observation. So I actually am drawing from pseudo-observation. Like, I'm looking at the figure, but I'm using it just as kind of like a general sort of like pose puppet in my head. I'm looking at the figure that's on screen, but I'm not drawing the pose that it's in. I'm thinking about how the body works by looking at it. And that's sort of helping inform me a little bit of my decisions when inventing a pose. Sure, yeah, you can do that. I would encourage people to take photos of themselves for their own reference too, especially for animation. Like, video reference of yourself is invaluable. You got to kind of learn how to act. Acting lessons are actually one of the things you need to take as an animator, by the way. We will probably get into acting for animators in the course of the Richard Williams stuff. I don't think Richard Williams really gets into acting in Animator Survival Kit, but that doesn't mean that we won't get into acting. Like, if there's an exercise that is something that would involve acting, like a dialogue test or whatever, I'm going to give some kind of overview of acting lessons and stuff and resources to look for advice on practicing acting. I'm sort of a intuitive actor when it comes to animating, so like I'm pretty good myself on that. But I still do need a lot of live action footage reference for a lot of the things I do. I have like the thought process stuff in mind for acting, for like what influences behavior pretty well for myself. And I'm hoping to get more of that to come out of me over the course of this project that we're working on too. So there's going to be some facial animation and other things. Well, it's a student game project, so it's inherently an indie game. Yeah. The game is called Headstrong, and it's a 2D action side-scroller. We don't know what subgenre of 2D action side-scroller it's going to be just yet. So far, it's looking like kind of a mixture of... In terms of how the play control works, it's a little bit of a mixture of like Cuphead and Symphony of the Night. But we're still kind of exploring that right now with the programming team and whatnot. We're making like an initial prototype first where we test out like the movement system and the play mechanics. And then we're going to move on to making a alpha test, which will be like a remake of the prototype, of the ideas and the lessons we learned from the prototype. Okay, Google, stop. Moving on to the alpha test is where it would start be turning into a little bit more like a real game, like where we might actually go for crowdfunding or something. Anyway, yes, those are some quick invented poses. Yeah, we're done for the evening. So cool. I'll go over again real quick those books I suggested. I'm going to be slowly building this kind of bibliography sort of thing with other books. Courses I can recommend, YouTube pages, and other things. There's so many others I can list right now, but we'd be at it for all tonight if I did. So I think I'm going to put together like a growing bibliography that I can just link people or show them, kind of like this. And this is good too, because when I look at this kind of like reminds me of the stuff that I've studied in these books and the stuff that I want to break back into studying. Because I've kind of fallen into a little bit of a rut, I feel, that I really want to kind of chip away at getting out of tomorrow with my pal Brendan in here and whoever else in the game dev team we're gonna be studying with. So yeah, Mike Mattisi's Force is a big one I'm gonna be studying. I'm gonna be dipping into Michael Hampton. I'm familiar with Bern Hogarth, and he's good to refer to. I think it'd be good to. I think he would be one of the ones definitely to use in conjunction with Mike Mattisi. There's Glenn Vilpu's drawing manual, which he was the main person I was pulling stuff from for tonight. That's what that demo in the corner of the screen right now is for. That's a Glenn Vilpu based demo down there. Sorry that got zoomed in a little bit during the sesh, but this thing, oops, this thing down in the corner here. Or I'll put it up on the big screen. Like I did a demo of like kind of how Glenn Vilpu approaches his chapter 1 figure drawing. But yeah, let's see here. Oh yeah, yeah. Remind me in case I forget. Steve on. Let me make a note. Actually, Steve on. This is a personal note for myself. There's some materials of his that I have that I want to go over tomorrow. That are notes I took from when I took his drawing course years ago, back in 2017, I think. And I want to go back and review them again tomorrow. But he's one of the digital drawing instructors that I'd recommend buying courses of or whatever. We're definitely going to be dipping into Walt Stanchfield, because that's very animator-oriented. Bridgman needs to be sprinkled around and studied. Loomis, we'll dip back and forth into him, I think. But yeah, mainly tomorrow, Mike Mattisi. For me. What does the very solid structures mean? Well, Michael Hampton is a very, very solid good sense of figure construction. You can see a little bit of that here. Like I'm going to zoom in on super close on these pixelated images here. Let me see if I can find. I have to look for him real quick. Hampton drawing. Let me see if I can find a good page of his that really shows this off. I'll try to find one that's safe for work, because he does a lot of art nudes. But he has a really, really great sense of construction. And there's a little bit of that going on that you can kind of see here. But you can see how he's like color coded the muscles, but he simplifies them into like simple shapes to understand, and like you can see how he's broken up the rib cage into like this simple box form that wraps over this simplified version of the structure of the rib cage and so on. I think like really, really like sinking your teeth into him. Look at that, like that. You can see like this boxed off side plane for the deltoid right here on like the upper arm. And he's yeah, this is like notes from a figure drawing session he gave showing how like the shoulder blade works, shoulder blade muscle works, and so on here. That's really cool shit. There's some other stuff that I got that shows off a little bit more of his construction. Let's see if I can find some good box forms that don't have titties in them. Here we go. Here's a good one. Yeah, look at that. Like simplifying the figure's forms like that. That's what I mean when he has a really good, solid sense of structure. So you can see why I wanted to combine him with Mike Matisse stuff. I'll show you what Mike Matisse stuff looks like if I can find some safe for work stuff of him. Yeah, I found some safe for work stuff. Yeah, he actually does some follow through action posing stuff that's really good that I think I can show on screen. Here, let me find some stuff here to show that is work safe. Alright, so here's some Mike Matisse stuff. I'm going to have to zoom in on this, but you can see like it's really, really flowy and really very like animator oriented, very gestural. Here's like an action pose study he did. You can see like he's like showing these arrows of like how the flow of the figure goes. There's like a little one of the techniques that he has is he has people do like a quick like 30-second, 1 minute pose like that, like really fast. And then you do the figure trying to working out the flow of the forms. So the thing like here, like showing this more like kind of rigid form here of like the arm sort of carrying the weight of this flowy body. Whoops. There he is himself. There's some live demos of his on Stan Proko's YouTube. And they do like Friday live streams. Forced Fridays they call it. Whoa. Yeah. That's cool shit. What's this? Well, there's Glenn Keane there for some reason. Yeah, he's got an actual website and stuff. I wonder why Glenn Keane is there though. That's cool, but yeah, drawingforce.com is where he's at if you want to get a hold of his books or whatever. I'll just give him a plug because I am studying him tomorrow, and I'm going to be kind of like sharing info that I learned from his books. I have like all his books except I don't have the animal drawing one. That's the only one I don't have. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be studying tomorrow. So thank you all for coming. You guys get the congratulations screen because you stuck around to the end. Thank you very much. I've got 29 people who stuck around for the whole session. That's very impressive. Keep it up. We'll keep studying together, studying and learning. We will resume next week on Monday. Monday will be animation focused. Be ready to draw and animate. Have animation software ready to go. I will actually be starting the class a little bit early on Mondays just so that people have time to download appropriate animation software. If you don't have animation software, that's okay. What you can do is you can take notes and you can draw thumbnails of the lessons that we're going to be doing. Try to have a copy of the Richard Williams Animators Survival Kit. Survival Kit. You can get an ebook version of it, I think, on Amazon or something. But here's the book, Richard Williams Animators Survival Kit. Try to have a copy of that for Monday. There's also a DVD set that I strongly recommend getting a hold of. It's very expensive, but get a hold of however you can. There's also an ebook version of it, I think on like an iBooks and some other things. The ebook version I do also strongly recommend getting because it has animated versions of the actual stuff. So you can see how the stuff actually moves. I'm not going to be able to necessarily show that. I might be able to show some GIFs from the internet from some of the exercises and how they work. But yeah, let's see. Animators, kit, GIF. Let's see if I can find. But there might be like some little exercises in here. Yeah, this is the animated version of the cover of the book right there. So it's really nice. There's that's one of the lessons from the book right there. It's a horse trot, or horse. I called it a horse walk, but they call it the correct term for it is a trot. And then like a horse run is a gallop. Yeah, that's a gallop right there. Yeah, there's some of these here. A lot of these are people trying to do exercises from the Animators Survival Kit. But I can identify which ones are actually by Richard Williams. I think that one is. That one definitely is. Yeah, that one's from the Animators Survival Kit. Yeah, I'll be able to like find some of the GIFs so I can show you like how this stuff looks when it moves during the class on Monday. But let's see, coin. There's a coin exercise and a bouncing ball exercise and some other things that this is somebody who actually did a coin using the bouncing ball thing. We're going to be doing like coin bouncing ball and stuff, but we're also going to be doing like we're going to be getting people started on an advanced exercise for more advanced people too. So it's not just going to be like coins and bouncing ball, moving coins and bouncing balls and stuff for Monday like it is in the earlier parts of this Animated Survival Kit. We're actually going to be setting people up to do some like actual like more advanced animation too. That for me is going to be related to my game dev project. But for the rest of the people, it's for the rest of the advanced people, it's going to be something a little bit more flexible. But without further ado, I gotta pause it. Okay, so what software I suggest you use? OpenTunes with a Z on the end. And Blender also has a 2D animation template, and that's free also. OpenTunes and Blender are both free. OpenTunes and Blender are good because they have onion skinning that works. I may show off a little bit how to use those. Like I may actually use Blender for Monday's class. But it really depends. We'll see. But yeah. So anyway, good night. Oh, and support me on Patreon. Give me a shout out to the person subscribing on Twitch. Support me on Twitch. Blah blah blah. Support me on my Ko-fi for direct links to support the class. Blah blah blah. Good night. See you Monday.